Force Master Sergeant who worked with Brigadier General Don Bacon during 3 different assignments. He has always been a great and true leader and mentor, a man of faith, dedicated to his family and friends, and of course his country. I'm excited for this next chapter in his life, and I know he will give his all, as he always has, to make this life a better life for everyone. It is my honor to introduce Senior Master Sergeant Retired Jimmy Weber to sing the national anthem. Jimmy played in the Heartland of America Band at Offutt for many years and performs all over our local area.
Here's to Jimmy. And for those veterans, if you want to salute, feel free to.
Thank you, General. It is an absolute honor for me to be here. I retired after nearly 25 years of service, and General Bacon was kind enough to reach down and actually preside over my retirement. It was an honor my family will never forget. He didn't have to do that, but they did. He and his beautiful wife made that maybe the most special day of my life. So please put your hand over your heart and render honors to our flag. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Jimmy. It is now my honor to introduce Governor Kay Orr. Governor Orr was our 36th governor and is the very first woman Republican governor elected in the United States. She served as our governor from 1987 to 1991. Prior to this, she served as Nebraska State Treasurer and was the very first woman elected to statewide office in Nebraska. Governor Orr, thank you for being here today and for starting the Bacon for Congress campaign with your great leadership and stature.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to be with you, and thank you for members of the media for being here to share, share this very special day with the family and friends of Don and Angie Bacon. It's an important day. We in Nebraska are so very fortunate to live in a state where we have good men and women who are dedicated to service, giving above and beyond themselves to others. And it's special indeed to have a man like Don Bacon, with his servant heart, having served us so well in so distinguished way in the military for almost 30 years, to step forward again and be willing to give of himself to serve us Nebraskans in the House of Representatives and Congress. And I thank all of you for joining in this effort, because it is one that is not done alone. We are also very fortunate in Nebraska to have so many who have served in the military here, especially at Offutt Air Force Base, who have a glimpse of Nebraska and decide to make it make Nebraska their home once they retire. Many of you knew my husband, Bill. He was a man of charm and wit, and he saw an important opportunity for me to remind Nebraskans that we always welcome newcomers. He said, now, Kay, when you go out there, you remind them that you're not a Nebraskan by accident of birth. You're a Nebraskan by choice. And that's what Don and Angie Bacon are. They decided to choose to be here, and we're grateful that they are going to continue. I have learned so much from the moment that I met Don and Angie Bacon last fall. It was an instant connection, like at first sight is what it was. And we found the common connections in many ways from our conservative principles and our faith in God and our love for our country. He's a man that wants to pass on to the next generation what we have so richly inherited from the founding principles of our founding fathers. And that's what he will do in Washington. And I heard the other day somebody mention they'd only met Don recently. They said, I really like him. He's so straightforward and open. There's so many qualities about him that I hope you get to know him as well as the rest of us. He's intelligent. Of course, he has that value military experience that will serve us well in Washington. But he's a man of integrity and intelligence, and he has those foundational principles and commitment and convictions that we will know from the moment we elect him, that every day in Congress, we can count on him to be the man that we sent to Washington. Without a doubt, that foundation includes a man of good moral character, devoted father, husband, and a good man. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to give a very warm welcome to the next representative from the 2nd District, Don Bacon.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. This is very humbling to see. I'm so honored that you're here today. It's raining outside, but I see lots of sunshine in here. It's with the spirit that I want to continue serving our great nation, the best nation on this planet. It's with the heart of wanting to tackle the problems that I see are undermining this great nation, that today I officially announced I'm a candidate for Congress for the 2nd District of Nebraska. I want to thank Governor Orr for making the introduction today, for her early endorsement. I was a lieutenant at Offutt Air Force Base when she was the governor. And I admired her then. I was a poli-sci major, just got out being an intern before I joined the Air Force, so I was attuned to watching the political and the various government office holders. I admired Governor Orr then, and Governor, I admire you today. Thank you. I want to recognize Mayor Rick Sanders, who I met in 1998, my second assignment at Offutt. They were great supporters of the base then, continue to be, and they're great leaders of Bellevue and they're great friends. They've helped us with the transition. I want to thank you. I want to thank Mayor Black, who I met during my third assignment at Offutt. He's also a great supporter of the base, and has also been a great mayor of Papillion, and I'm proud to have you as my mayor, sir. Thank you. I got to recognize Sarah. I call her Sarah Jo. I've known her since 1994, 1995. She was a one-stripe airman working for Captain Don Bacon I've worked with her then 3 more times. We deployed during the invasion of Iraq together. So it's really 4 times we've worked together. But I need to share this with you. She just retired after 20 years, 15 deployments. She's also, her and her husband have raised a family of 5 kids, a beautiful family, to include triplets. And on Facebook intelligence, I know there's number 6 on the way. And Jimmy over here he's an icon in the Heartland of America band for a long time. We were so blessed that he's stayed here in this local area after he retired, but he contributes to a lot of charities and just all over this local community. We were blessed to have him. Jimmy, thanks for helping us start out today, right? Appreciate it. So quick family introductions. Then I'll get to some more comments. I have to recognize my wife, Angie. We've been married 31 years. She did 16 assignments with me, 17 moves. And she's decided to help me out with this. I also have to add, she's been my first endorsement. I'm just going to work hard to try to keep it. My oldest son, Donnie, he moved here in 2008. Put his roots down here before we even could. Met Lee Aaron, and they have a 2-year-old granddaughter. Unfortunately, she has 102 temperature right now. They would be here. I'm probably holding her right now because I have a habit when I give speeches. She wants me to hold her. So, but anyway, they're sick today. But Donnie works at the United States Strategic Command as a civilian. So he's put his roots down here. He's got 2 degrees in this local area. Alex is our second oldest. He moved here in 2010 when I was stationed in Germany. And so he put his roots down here. He met Katie, they're newlyweds. Katie works at Creighton University and Alex works at Ameritrade. We have 2 other children, Austin and Jessica. They're 20 years old and 19 years old. They're living in Virginia. They stayed there after we retired from the Pentagon. They wanted a little independence from mom and dad. But we hope to draw them back here at some point. So, 1985, I joined the Air Force. Now, as a student of military history, political history, and I knew freedom is not free. And it was in the midst of the Cold War. And that's why I wanted to join and be a part of that, defend our country with that threat. What Angie and I didn't know was we were going to spend the next nearly 30 years in the Air Force. It was never our design. In fact, I don't know, one assignment at a time, it ended up being almost 30. It's amazing how that happens. But we had 16 assignments, 17 moves. And I think that experience, all those experiences prepared me well to run in this district, to be a great candidate, and also to serve you well in Congress. I had multiple assignments as an intelligence officer. I served as a reconnaissance officer on the RC-135 flying out of Offutt. Multiple assignments as an electronic warfare officer with the EC-130s out of Tucson in Arizona. I served as a public affairs officer. Wasn't a volunteer, I may add about that. But I was a public affairs officer working for General Petraeus for 1 year in Iraq. I also served in communications for an assignment, where I had to learn more about our space communications and the threats in space. And I also served one assignment in Germany where I helped stand up the ballistic missile defense for Israel. I also had 4 deployments to the Middle East. 1 year in Iraq, in Baghdad, 6 months in Qatar, working with Sarah. She was with, I think, the whole time with me there. And that's where we were doing the invasion of Iraq. I was also deployed to UAE and Bahrain. I also had 5 different commands. Got to command an expeditionary squadron during the invasion of Iraq, as already mentioned. I was a group commander with 5 squadrons of EC-130 missions where we supported operations in Iraq and Afghanistan every day during my entire tenure command. I was commander at Ramstein Air Base, the largest base and wing in Europe. Then I came here to the Fighting 55th, Offutt, the greatest wing in the United States Air Force, in my humble opinion. I got to serve here. But one of the things that the Air Force did that I'm most grateful for is that got us here to Offutt early and often. 1986, 1998, and 2011. I had 2 other assignments where my bosses were here, but I was stationed somewhere else. I had to come back here a lot. This is a great place to live. Angie and I and our kids have lived all over the world, all over the United States, and I will tell you there's no friendlier place to live than this local area. And as Governor Orr says, we are Nebraskans by choice, and look forward to spending the rest of our lives right here serving. And you can count on us not moving back to New York. Now, 14 months ago, I decided it was time to retire. And it wasn't a decision I took lightly. It took a lot of prayer and thought. I saw the greatest nation on this planet being undermined by multiple different issues, and I saw a lack of willpower from our career politicians as a group. I'd say all of them, but as a group, they weren't getting the job done in Washington. And when you're wearing a uniform, you have a choice. You know, professionally follow, or you get out and start making a difference. And I decided it was time to get out, start speaking out, and that's why I'm here today. I want to just go through some of the issues that bothered me most. First of all was our national debt. Now it's reached $18.2 trillion. If you take every man, woman, and child, it comes out to nearly $60,000 per person. So for Donnie and his family, that is $180,000, his share of the debt for that family. We could do better. Our president, when he, in his last budget, proposed a $480 billion deficit, $4 trillion budget, and he called it progress. It's not. I was also concerned about our health care. And we're going to give our health care over to Washington, D.C. bureaucrats, 1/6 of our economy. Now, I realize that 85% of our folks prior to Obamacare were generally happy with their health care. It was that 50% we needed to work on. There's a false argument out there. If you didn't like Obamacare, then you want to go back to where it was at. That's a false argument. We needed to work on that 15%, but I would not have given it to Washington, D.C. bureaucrats to take care of it. I've been at Pentagon 2 times. I've seen bureaucracy in action. If you want the things that you need taken care of done effectively and efficiently, giving it to Washington, D.C. is not the right answer. I was concerned about a bureaucracy that is out of control. It's a bureaucracy on steroids. We go down all the alphabet soup: IRS, EPA, CFPB from the Dodd-Frank legislation, FEMA. You go up and down the line, they are undermining our business environment, our investment, our hiring, our wages. Let's just talk about wages. I don't think our bureaucracy is the sole reason for the decline in wages, but it's part of the problem. I read recently that we've had a 4% decline in the wages of our workers in the last 7 years. The average family income in our country is $51,000. That comes out to around, give or take a little, $2,000 in lost income in the last 7 years. That's a mortgage payment. That's tuition, that's a vacation. Our federal government, our career politicians aren't getting the job done. We're not taking care of our middle class, and we got to do better. I was also concerned about a complicated tax code, 4,995 pages. We can do better. And when I talked to our chaplains when I was active duty, and subsequently after my retirement, I talked to pastors and businessmen and women of faith, I hear more and more fears and concerns. Are they going to be able to exercise their First Amendment rights freely? We need to ensure that not only our First Amendment, but all of our Bill of Rights are protected, are sacred and viable. And finally, I would say that when I looked at our national security situation 14 months ago, I was concerned. Our deterrence capabilities has grown weaker. We've cut our budget by 15% roughly in recent years, last 6-7 years. We've been handing out pink slips to servicemen and women while they're deployed, after they finish multiple deployments, while we're fighting in combat situations. Our strategy has not really changed much in the last several decades, but our resources has been cut to almost half. And some of our combat capabilities down to 1/3. We need to have a strong deterrence because we don't want to fight wars. I would be very cautious in the use of our forces. That's the right answer. If we have a weak deterrence, it makes us more vulnerable. I think we need to do better with our deterrence and our national security. We need to develop a strategy to defeat ISIS, which is a terrible threat, not only us, but it's regional, all the regional countries there. And finally, I was concerned about how we treated our allies. Now, Great Britain has stood shoulder to shoulder with us over the last century. They served with us in Iraq and Afghanistan. A few years back, our president said that if troubles erupt between Great Britain and Argentina over the Falklands, that he would remain neutral. I was with them at the time, selling 3 RC-135s. It was embarrassing. Our allies were serving with us in Iraq and Afghanistan. And finally, I would also mention about allies Israel. Our best ally in the Middle East, the only democracy in the Middle East. We've treated them wrong and disrespectfully. So with that, I decided it was time to get out, get involved. That's why I'm here today. Now, my 2 favorite heroes growing up, I liked reading about, and I still do, is Winston Churchill and Abraham Lincoln. And there's a lot of reasons why they motivate me. But they had what I call moral courage. Courage. For Abraham Lincoln, for 2 decades prior to the Civil War, he was an abolitionist, wanted to prevent the slavery moving westward, and he was unpopular. He had a hard time winning anything in Illinois. Winston Churchill spoke about the Nazis in the early 1930s, when the British did not want to hear about it because of World War I and all those losses. And he was in the wilderness years. But in the end, both sides of countrymen, Great Britain and America, realized that they were speaking the truth. And both these leaders saved their countries. We need statesmen in Washington, D.C. that has that kind of courage. We don't need the career politicians that aren't tackling the issues and they keep kicking the can and they're more worried about the next election. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I bring 2 attributes to this race that will be unique, that will resonate well in this district. First will be my military leadership experience. We have a lack of it now in Washington. It's the lowest it's been in decades. It's an 18% veteran rate in Congress. It used to be 78%. I think I can take my experience and help craft a smart strategy to defeat ISIS. A smarter strategy to counter Russia and how it's threatening its neighbors. And I could be a great advocate for Offutt Air Force Base. Who knows Offutt better? I've been there 3 times, commanded it, and I realize the importance of this base to our community. 10,160 jobs on base. $200 million in contracts. And it creates an additional 4,600 jobs in our local area. I would relish and look forward to advocate for this base in Washington, D.C., for the men and women who serve there, their families, our civilians who work there, and the veterans. The second thing is I am not a career politician. I'm a conservative outsider. I will be focused on the issues that are important. I'm not doing this for a new job title. And I'm more concerned about solving the issues facing us than winning the next election. I look forward to tackling our deficit, complicated tax code, securing our borders. I look forward to building up our deterrence. And I'll be primarily focused on making sure our freedom and liberties, our Constitution, is protected. Now, you can count on me not having my finger up in the air, seeing which way the wind's blowing. And I will not switch parties on you. Now, our opponent does a pretty good job putting his finger in the air, see which way the wind's blowing. But sometimes he reads the winds wrong. Like when he voted for Nancy Pelosi to be the speaker, the most liberal, partisan speaker we've ever had, and not representative of Eastern Nebraska. He had a chance to go on record where he stood on Obamacare. I said both ways during the campaign, but during his vote in Congress, he voted against the repeal of Obamacare. And he had a chance also to go on record to vote what he would do with our tax dollars when it comes to abortion. And he voted against the ban of putting our tax dollars towards abortion or abortion providers. And I could go on. I just want you to know you can count on my principles not changing. And you will know where I stand. And if I don't know, if I'm working it, I'll tell you, I'm working through this issue. It's a complicated one. I'll be candid with you. Before I close, I just want to also say that we want to have a good time during this campaign. Imagine what you can do with the name Bacon. There's a lot of slogans out there. We're going to maybe try a few of them. Now I'm reminded of Senator Ernst and her commercial with the pigs and the squealing. I promised my family I wouldn't use a certain word. I'm a farm boy. I was raised on a farm with corn, soybeans, and beef cattle. Both sets of my neighbors, though, had pigs. And when I was 7 years old, my neighbor, who's named Otto, invited me over to help him do the tonsillectomies on pigs. That's what he told me. So he paid me $0.25 for every piglet I would catch. He says, Don, we're doing tonsillectomies. And I thought that for a couple of years, unfortunately. But here's the problem. One day my doctor said I needed a tonsillectomy. That created a little consternation. Thankfully, somebody corrected me, and I learned more about what I was doing. I think I can one-up Joni Ernst with this slogan. A vote for bacon will always be a vote against pork. In closing, I just want to stress something that's moved me when I read this study 4 years ago. Only 1 in 20 people who've ever lived on this planet, 1 in 20, have had the freedoms that we have in our nation. 5%. The other 95% have lived under kings, czars, dictatorships, communists, fascists, you name it, ayatollahs, lacking their freedom. But we are part of that 1 in 20, the 5%, that have had freedom. It's rare, it's precious, we need to cherish it. We need to cherish the Constitution that's core to our foundation for our freedoms. We also need to realize that freedom is not free. Hundreds of thousands of Americans have paid all so we can have this freedom. I think we need to commit ourselves, when we talk about our deficit, the role of the federal government, our national security, not only to the next generation and our grandkids, that's important. We also need to remember for those who paid all and commit ourselves to them and their families. Abraham Lincoln talked about that at the Gettysburg Address, that we don't want their loss to be in vain. I will not forget the 10 families that I had to go see and talk about the loss of their loved one in the line of duty. I'll remember them. You can't forget that when you do it. I'll never forget people like Mark Stratton, who some people in here know real well, who served with us at Offutt Air Force Base, was later killed by a suicide bomber. And we named a street for him at Offutt. A great young man killed in Afghanistan. But there's nearly 7,000 like him, men and women, who paid the price in Iraq and Afghanistan. We need to remain committed to them, as well as our kids and grandkids, and I will do that. Ronald Reagan talked about the need that every generation has to defend freedom. It's not something we naturally pass on in our bloodstream, our DNA. Each generation has to stand up and do it. And we have had our share of it too, and we've got to continue doing that. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to close and say I look forward to being a defender in a different way for our freedom, for our representative government, our Constitution, our way of life. And with that, I want to invite Jimmy Weber back up to sing God Bless America.
I'm gonna throw General Bacon a little bit of a curveball because if you don't mind, I'm gonna sing the song I sang when I retired and stood side by side with you. This one's called God Bless the USA. If tomorrow the things were gone, worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife, I will thank my lucky stars to be living here today, where this flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died, who gave that right to me. And I proudly stand up next to you and defend her still today. See, there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Sing it with me, here we go. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died, who gave them right to me. And I proudly stand up next to you and defend
See, there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Way to go, Jim.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here and making the start of Bacon for Congress the great first step to November 2016, when he'll be elected to be our next United States Congressman.
Thank you. All right. Let's socialize and mingle.
I'm never supposed to sit next to the person with the sign. Can I have my purse? Because I always share that purse.
Which is your purse?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I do have to run. I'm in the middle.
No, I know, but I made sure those things
Oh,
so
I know.
they get you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I will see you later. Okay, thanks.